Hey, what's up, Unbroken Nation? Hope that you're doing well wherever you are in the world today. Very excited to be back with you for Tuesday night coaching. I want to do Tuesday nights so I can hang out with you guys so that we can come together. So not only is me speaking, but if you have questions, you're more than welcome to ask your questions as we go through this. This is communal. This is about us coming together. If you're watching on social channels other than Discord, you're more than welcome and invited to join us on our Discord channel. If you go to thinkunbroken.com/discord, that's DISCORD, thinkunbroken.com/discord. I'm trying to grow that environment, that arena. I love Discord. For those of you who may know, one of my mentors is Tom W, and he has an incredible Discord channel. And what's really great about Discord, in my opinion, is that you are not tied to the algorithms. So, people will miss this. I'll give you a great example. I'm live on all of my social channels, but specifically speaking towards my awesome Instagram fam, the Unbroken Nation. There's almost 17,000 of us there, and there are 4 people on here, which that is not me not being gracious. So thank you very, very, very much for everyone being here and watching right now. It's just to say that the algorithms, they control everything, and well, maybe not in the future. I don't know if you guys heard, but Elon Musk bought Twitter, so that's super interesting. I'm very curious about what's going to happen over there. Maybe Twitter will come back live. Who knows? Anyway, that'll be a conversation for another day. It's Tuesday night. I hope that you all are well wherever you are in the world. I hope that your life is amazing, and I hope that you're challenging yourself today. I hope that you're stepping out of your comfort zone, following through, keeping your promises, and stepping into what is next in your life. Tonight we're going to talk about this idea about being who you are and what that means. And you'll notice the title of today's conversation is You Don't Have to Justify Yourself. And this is a really interesting topic of conversation because for many people we get this feeling, this sensation that we have to get permission from other people to be who we are. I'm going to raise my hand. I don't know that I've ever not had that experience at some point in my life where I'm like, wow, I have to be someone else so someone likes me, especially when I was younger. Today, no. I've been able to remove that from my life through doing a tremendous amount of work. And what I want you guys to think about here as we talk this evening is, are you showing up fully and authentically as yourself? And if you're not, start asking yourself some difficult questions. And the first one is ultimately why. Why am I not showing up as myself today? What is it that is keeping me from being able to step fully into who I am? Where am I missing the boat? What is it that I'm either not paying attention to or possibly even avoiding? One of the things that I'll share a really weird story with you. When I was in sixth grade, you remember those Junko jeans, the JNCO Junko jeans, like those big flared out crazy jeans. Well, in sixth grade they were super popular, so we're talking like I guess I'm in 97, 98, somewhere in that window, and we could not afford those jeans. I mean, I could not have been more poor. We were deeply, deeply impoverished. But I would see all those kids wearing those jeans, and I would think to myself, oh man, that's the cool kids. They have those jeans. They must be the ones who have it all figured out, right? And more so, I get deeper into it and look at the kind of backpack they had on, the way that they talked. And I remember distinctly one day, I won't say his name, I still remember his name actually. One day this kid came up to me, he's like, dude, you're such a copycat. You're such a copycat. You are pretending to be like everybody else. And I remember that being really striking in the moment because I was really deeply into justifying that I wasn't. I was like, no, I'm not. This is me. I like all this stuff. And what was funny is I didn't. I had no interest in those things. But I didn't know how to step into being myself. That is an aspect of this journey that so many people who go through traumatic experiences experience. Like, well, how do I be me? And as I went further throughout my my childhood, I found myself even at some points thinking about, all right, I don't know who I am. And I distinctly remember this as a kid, being like, I don't understand life, which I don't think any kid does. I think, hell, I'm an adult, I don't understand life. Like, let's be very clear about that. And I'm like a kid, I'm like, all right, I don't understand this, but I kind of think I do. And I think the way to understanding life is to be like everybody else. That seemed to make a lot of sense in my mind. I don't know if you guys have experienced this or not as well, but I thought to myself, oh, I'll just be like them. Because if I'm like them, then that means that I'll fit in. That means maybe I'll have safety in community. Maybe that means one of these kids might be my friend, right? And that was one of the things that I was trying to figure out how to navigate as a child. Is like, how do you actually have friends? I was always the weird kid, always the outsider, always the chubby kid, always the kid who smelled bad, always the kid who was badly behaved. But the interesting juxtaposition of that as well is I was always winning spelling bees, and I got my homework done, or I didn't do homework, but I got my schoolwork in class done the fastest. I would always be the first one done on tests. And so now, look, I'll say this. You don't want to be the weird kid and the smart kid together. It's a recipe for disaster. And so I'm going through all this as a kid, and I'm like, all right, well, shit, I don't know how to be me, so let me pretend and bend and try to be these other kids. And as I got further into my journey as a child, I started picking up all these other weird nuances that kids have, right? I think innately we all do that. I mean, even as adults, if you're around a person and they kind of have like a catchphrase, you know what I mean? You know that friend who says that one thing like constantly, and somehow you start catching it, and you start bringing that into your vernacular. Um, I think it's inherent and natural that that's a part of the journey of what happens with us. But as a child, you're looking at and measuring, what it is that's viable. Is it popularity? Is it a certain style? Is it a conversation? Is it whatever that may be? It could even be a hairstyle, right? Whatever that thing is that makes you feel like in that moment you fit in, or that you're communal, or that you're a part of something. And on a long enough timeline, hopefully, my hope is that you'll understand that you don't have to be anybody but you. So let's break this down a little bit deeper. I know I've come into this conversation a couple of times recently over the last few months, and that's because it's really about, I want the Unbroken Nation, I want you guys to understand ownership of who you are is such a predominant factor in the healing journey that I want to keep pushing this out. I think about even the style in which I've been learning over the last 4 months, and I've switched from reading a freaking ton of books to really focusing and rereading multiple. And what dawned on me recently was like, how can you really figure something out if you keep switching? So I want to come back into this identity conversation a little bit more over the coming weeks, because I want it to solidify. Because this is ultimately what I believe to be, here's how I think about it. So if child abuse and trauma is ultimately the theft of identity, then the chasm that we have to cross from where we are to where we want to be, ultimately being healed, right? Being healthy, being who we are, that chasm is about ownership of who you are as created and defined by you, right? So ownership of who you are as created and defined by you, not through provocation or justification of yourself to others. And that is probably and arguably, in my opinion, the most difficult aspect of this journey. And it starts at such a young age. I've talked about this a few times. When you look at some of the long-term detrimental damage of the conflict of childhood trauma. It's being in this place where you're kind of in, without having a better way to phrase it, you're in this situation of having to build yourself into yourself in real time as an adult without the support system of what you would have had or should have had at a younger age via family, community, peers, and people who want to prop you up and give you the space to explore who you are. I don't know if any of you have ever heard something similar to this, but I used to get told all the time, if you keep acting like this, I'm going to hit you, I'm going to hurt you, I'm going to punish you, whatever that thing may be. And so what happens is, if your brain is looking at and trying to measure the data of the stimulus and the experiences that you're having to effectively put it in one of two camps, right? Is the thing that I'm experiencing right now safe or dangerous? Safe or dangerous? And since the brain's key, really its only real purpose, key purpose is survival. Since that's true, if you're in situations of safety, right, the brain will go, this is okay, I can continue to do this thing over here, no problem. If you're in positions of danger, in situations that the stimulus is unsafe, the brain goes, actually, hold on, pause, time out. This is dangerous. I am unsafe, so I cannot do this again. The problem with that, well, the best part of it is that it keeps you safe, right? I think we can all agree because we're all live listening to this right now. Thank you, brain. Take a moment. Let's thank our brains. I thank my brain every single day. Thank you, brain. It's been a motherfucker getting me here. I appreciate you. I know we got more work to do, but thank you. Guys, be grateful for your brain, please. I know it's a pain in the ass sometimes, but it's got you to where you are today. So a little love for you. And so the downside of this is that when your brain starts to recognize the stimulus that says, I am unsafe, well, it removes it from the possibility of you doing, because ultimately survival is the most important thing. So if the brain equates your behaviors, your identities, the way that you speak, the way that you act, the way that you talk, the way that you behave, the way that you make mistakes or learn are things that are negative, the brain will tell you that is unsafe. Don't do that. Think about this for a second. Maybe just briefly go through the Rolodex of memories in your head in which you were faced with this moment that you learned it's unsafe to be you. Think about what happened. I remember one very specifically when I was, I don't know, probably 10 or 11. I was reading the newspaper. And in the newspaper, there was horoscopes, right? And I didn't really know or understand what that was, but there were all of the titles associated with each month of what you are. Like, so I was born in October, I'm right? You're a Taurus, Aquarius, whatever. So I'm going through, I'm reading the horoscopes, and I'm trying to go through it. And my baby brother, my youngest brother, he was born in March. And so that's obviously, I won't say obviously Pisces, but it's Pisces. And so as I'm reading the newspaper, I actually say thesis, because that's what it looked like in the phonetics. I was like, oh, that's PHS, right? So I'm going through it, I'm sounding it out. I say this, and my stepdad freaks out on me, right? I don't even know what the word feces means at this point in my life, right? Nor the word Pisces. Actually, I still don't know the word Pisces. Yeah, I don't know Pisces, folks. No judgment, no shame. And so I'm going through this, reading this, and in that moment, he just smacked me in the face so incredibly hard. And I didn't understand why. Like, why would that happen? Why would I have to experience this physical pain as I'm trying to learn and develop something? Okay, so let's look at this. causation and correlation, right? I'm laying out my story because I'm hoping that in this you will have a better understanding of those experiences in your own life that have led you to a place that involved me. So when you look at and you understand that in this situation, your brain evaluates this experience and it says, all right, when I try to do something like read aloud, sounding out words that I do not understand so that I can understand them, there's pain and embarrassment. Thus, what will happen is that you will no longer want to do that. And I can track this. I wish as a child I would have had someone teach me what I'm about to say because it would have been really incredible to learn. So I had been going through elementary school and doing spelling bees every Friday and winning all the time. Like probably so often that the other kids resented me, which I actually believe is true, which is understandable, right? When you're a kid, you don't know better. You're trying to figure this out, and this one person keeps winning these freaking spelling bees. And then this moment happens with trying to sound out Pisces. And immediately after, I stopped entering, like it was like probably this next upcoming week, I stopped doing the spelling bees. And my teacher, I remember, her name was Miss Thompson. She came up to me and she's like, why don't you enter the spelling bees? You're doing such a good job. You need to be in them. And I just said, as most children do in that situation, I go, I don't know. And she's trying to push me back into it. She's like, you're doing such a good job. You're winning. You're getting all these gold stickers on the chart. And if you guys remember the Pizza Hut personal pan pizzas that came in the little brown boxes as a kid, that were unbelievably delicious and simultaneously bad for you, were like, for me, like one of my favorite things. Like I could not wait. I literally wanted to win for food. Now, there's a lot of context behind that. Growing up in poverty, I won't get into the details of that. You guys have heard that story. But she's trying to get me to come back and do these spelling bees. I keep telling her no, I don't want to do this. And finally, she says to me, you don't have to do this. You're not forced to do this. But you should do this. I didn't understand what she was saying. I'm like 11 years old. I have no idea. So I no longer continue to do them that part of the year. And I realized at some point, this was probably 5 or 6 years ago in therapy, I'm sharing this story with the therapist. Then he goes, you realize like you stop wanting to do uncomfortable things in public because of the abuse that you suffered around that moment. And I was like, shit. You're spot on. I no longer wanted to do anything publicly. And when I measure a lot of the experiences of my youth, of my school years, of my early 20s, it was like I did not want to be the center of attention in any capacity. And I realized that is such a direct correlation in that moment of being embarrassed, of being like, it's not okay, it's painful, and it's hurtful for me to be wrong. Your brain adds that up. Think about this. If your brain is taking those experiences, it's looking at what has happened in your life, it's measuring them and trying to understand and make meaning of those experiences to categorize them in a way that helps you be safe and navigate the world, then it's going to look at an experience like that and tell you, actually, you shouldn't do this anymore. And this is a thing I was good at, right? I was good at spelling bees, I was good at spelling, I was good in my English class or whatever. And because of this interaction with my stepfather, because of the physical pain of that moment, what happened is my brain evaluated him. I said, you cannot do this again. And so I shut down for a very, very long time in this thing that I really enjoyed. Like that brought me joy. That was a part of my personality. As a kid, I was competitive. As many of you know, I'm competitive as an adult, but there was this huge gap where my competitiveness had got put to the side, where my identity started getting stripped away even more about competitive things or public things or trying to figure out how to navigate something I didn't understand. This is why you see so many people who, when they are at the apex or the precipice of doing something unknown, they quit because the association is doing this thing that I am not proficient at will cause me to be embarrassed. Thus, in light of trying not to be embarrassed, because I equate that at some point in the journey of my life as pain, suffering, possibly experience near death, right? The brain says, don't do this thing subconsciously. And because that is the tie that we have to it, when you're faced with, all right, I want to step into the unknown, we get stuck. Like that's where stuckness comes from, right? Stuckness comes from the unwillingness to step into the difficulty of the unknown, but it's reasonable that you would be that way if the precedent that was set for stepping into the unknown was pain, and the brain's only purpose is survival. I hope you guys are following this. I hope that you are seeing this track laid out, right? Now, let's fast forward today, where we are. You're watching me live, or if you're listening on the podcast, which thank you very much. If you're watching or listening, you're noticing that I'm doing something uncomfortable and unknown to me. I'm talking about these experiences. I'm live in front of thousands of people, tens of thousands of people, which thank you so much. You guys are freaking amazing, are going to listen to this. And yet, I still have this experience of the past that had informed me of the potential of making a mistake could equal pain. So how does that take you from where you were? Let me rephrase that. So how does healing take you from where you were in the experiences of your childhood to where you are today in this real life experience? The truth is, you have to be willing to do two things. And this is my opinion. I think you have to be willing to do two things. One, you have to be willing to no longer justify who you are to people, to anyone. As long as you're operating in alignment with who you are, your moral character, your wants, needs, and interests, and your values. And if that holds true, and I honestly think across the board, you do not have to justify yourself. The other, probably more important, I should have started here, is recognizing that the way that you step through changing and understand the truth that the brain is incredibly malleable. The brain is incredibly plastic. And what that means is that you have the ability to change your own thoughts. And I'm going to rewind this. I want that to be number one. I should have said that first, so I apologize. You, just through your thoughts alone, can change your brain forever. And when you start to associate the experiences that you're having right now about who you are and who you are working to become in positive ways, your brain starts to physically change. You can watch this on MRI scans. Dr. Carolyn Leaf, who I'm very, very excited about coming on Being Broken, talks about this in depth. And this incredible measurement for looking at life through this ability to simply be positive and watch the brain change. Positive thoughts actually create real change in the physiology of your brain, the way that it fires. And so when you think about the way that you are stepping into who you are, most people, the vast majority, I would argue, step into change about who they are, about looking at the negativity of it through the scope of discomfort. What I try to do, and one of the things that has gotten me to where I am right now, and one of the things I encourage all of my clients to do, is to do things that make them uncomfortable, but think about the positive outcome. Because when you're thinking and you're focused on the positive outcomes, just like I wrote in the first book, Think Unbroken, fear and excitement are the same physiological response. It's just that when you don't understand the truth, that when you're flooded with adrenaline, right, and you're in that state, the body wants to escape and run. But that's not always necessarily beneficial to you. I'll give you a great example of a moment that it's not. Let's say public speaking, right? The thing that everyone says is everyone's biggest fear. I don't think that's everyone's biggest fear. I just think people have not figured out how to yet assess the emotional and chemical reaction to the stimulus of stepping on stage. And so when we're flooded with adrenaline, right, and we are going through this place where our amygdala is firing and saying, hey, wait a second, hold on. This might be a fight or flight situation. What you have to do is bring a massive, massive, massive amount of cognizant awareness to what is happening. And so when you have this emotional response to stimulus, which you effectively will, this could be anything from love to, anger to, car accidents, or stepping into rooms where you're unknown, or cooking dinner, or anything. The way that you think about that moment matters so much, because that's where you're going to create the emotional response to it through awareness. And so when you're getting ready to go on stage, again, we're using this for context because I think it's this common fear a lot of people have, is when you're having that adrenaline and your stomach feels weird and your hands get tingly and numb and you get tunnel vision, what you have to understand is that is your brain preparing you for fight, flight, freeze, fawn, right? That's such a sympathetic response. And in that moment, if you can ask yourself this question, which I think is an incredibly important question, am I safe? Am I safe? If you can ask yourself that question, you will notice that the adrenaline rush that you're having will actually, if you're paying attention, will actually begin to subside. Because you have to remind, look, your brain is trapped in darkness. It's not actually really, it's interesting because there's a lot of conversation of what controls the brain, the mind or the brain. And I think it's the mind. I think your thoughts, I know this, and I think Dr. Carolyn Leaf will prove this as well. Like your thoughts, what you think, are controlled first, right? It's thought and then action. And so in these moments of stepping into the unknown, of being who it is that you are, there is often that response that is physical that is happening. It could be anything. I mean, the first time that like, here's a weird example. Let's say you want to go roller skating. You haven't been roller skating before, or you haven't done it since you were 7, and now you're 47. I want to go roller skating. But that nervousness, that sensation comes up with you. Now, if historically, when you have tried things that are uncomfortable and you failed through them, or you didn't go as you planned, or maybe there's a little bit of embarrassment tied with it, your brain will go, no, you can't do it, right? How many people do you know? And you may be one of those people. I used to be one of these people where someone would ask me, hey, do you want to go do this thing? And it'd be something I was actually interested in doing, but I would default to no. How many of you guys are defaulting to no, where you're just like, I can't, no, I can't, no, it's too much, too embarrassing, too, right? There is, I believe this to be true, there is an amount of fearlessness that you need in your life as you are creating. In the willingness to ask yourself when faced with stepping into this new understanding of who you are and having the emotional response that you're having, to ask yourself, Am I safe? Because chances are you are safe. Now, of course, there's context in this. You can be skydiving, it's a totally different situation. But I'm talking about more in your day to day life, right now in this moment, as you're stepping in and creating who you are. So if the chasm for healing in this journey is the space of stepping into and creating your identity, then when you create your identity through excitement about who it is that you are and are building into, it's less likely that you're going to run from it as a survival response to stimulus. Think about this for a second. Think about this. If the only thing that you ever do is run from what you're curious about, your wants, your needs, your interests, your values, that thing inside of you that says go towards this. If you always run away from that, that's an autonomic and often subconscious response to something that your brain has evaluated in the past as dangerous. But I'm telling you, if you listen to what I'm saying right now in those moments, I'll give you another one. This is one of my favorites, actually. Karaoke. Think about this. How many people like karaoke? Or you probably like it. It's probably something. Except if you are terrified of it, and your body goes, no way. You can't get on stage. You can't even fathom. But when you understand that the emotional response that the body has to fear and excitement is the same thing, and you simply ask your brain, am I safe? You will have a vastly, vastly different experience. And I think one of the things that's important is not to vacillate between am I safe or not, but instead, as soon as you have the answer, to move in towards the thing that you need to do. Because you can always find a reason why you cannot do something. I think that's always very simple. But in life, in the scope of safety, it's about you have this opportunity to understand at a deeper scope and level who you are. And by doing that, you begin to step into a further reframing of your past experiences to put them on the shelves where they need to go so they're not impacting your day-to-day life. Think about this. If you're always living in fear, if you're always living in this place of I can't, I shouldn't, I'm scared, you'll never fully step into understanding who you are. Now, what I'm getting to here, I know this is a very long explanation, but I wanted to create massive context for you guys to understand causation and correlation in this journey. I think it's not touched on enough. I think people are missing the boat on it. And that's why we're going back into this today, because you must understand the behavioral patterns today based off the experiences of your past that have led you to this moment. This is everything. It's everything to understand how you got to where you are today. Because the only way you get to where you want to go is to understand how you got to where you are today. And so as you're going through this process and you said, this is who I want to be. This is who I believe that I am. This is who I have this ideation about myself that I want to explore. The most important thing is, in my opinion, the most important thing that you can do is not justify who you are, but instead act. Action will teach you more about who you are than anything else. Most people will go and ask permission to be themselves before actually being themselves. And this is dangerous. Why? Why is this dangerous? Because the moment that you start to bring in outside input, the brain is going to revert back to assessing for danger. Because the people around you, what they're going to do is they're going to say, are you sure? Are you sure you want to do that? That doesn't sound like a great idea. Amber, Jennifer, Heather, Tom, Steve. I don't know, guys. That doesn't sound like a great idea. You sure you want to do that thing? because I did that one thing that one time, and because I did that one thing that one time, and I had a bad experience, I said never again. Well, think about this. What does that have to do with you? What does that have to do with you? Other people's experiences have, I mean, of course we're communal, right? But in reality, we don't live life for each other. And so because of that, what you have to understand is while people may have your best interest in mind, they're wrong. The only way that you're going to know who you are is by having the experience that you need to experience to find out the truth. How do you find out who you are? By, instead of asking, which is a form of justification, right? Is it okay if I do this thing? Is it okay? Can someone please give me permission to be me? Instead of asking to be you, what you do if you want to find success in your life is you step into being you and understand that you do not have to ask people permission to do so. There's a lot to this. There's so many aspects of this journey that I know are in real time being evaluated by each of us as individuals. But the one thing that I know that holds the most true in this experience of healing is that for those who are willing to say, this is who I am, plant their flag in the ground. And again, this is factoring in that you have created a framework of a baseline foundation of who you are. You know your values, your wants, your needs, your interests, your moral character, your personal, your boundaries. You have a mission, a motto, a statement. You have something that conveys who you are. That becomes the framework for you to be able to step into this effectively, to also be able to follow through. Because what will happen is many people be like, yeah, I don't have to justify myself. And you're like a fucking dickhead. Like, I'm just saying, like, it's just true. Like, I've been there. I've been that guy. And you go out and you ask and you go, I need to go and get permission from people. No, you don't. What you need to do is get massively clear about who you are. Get massive clarity about who you are. Because here's the truth. Your friends are going to tell you, don't date that person. Don't start that business. Don't do that podcast. Don't go on that trip. Don't quit that job. Don't go back to school. Your friends will always tell you a reason why you can't do something. So will your family. So will your peers. And that's not because they don't have anything other than what they believe to be your best interest in life. That's it. They want you to be successful. But they've already failed. And so now they don't want you to attempt finding out whether or not you can. And that's not them trying to pull you down most of the time. But it's instead them not evaluating and understanding the truth that the only way you're going to figure out who you are is by figuring out who you are. And so if you go and you ask for permission, like one of the things that I think is very dangerous is for you to go out and lay out your plans to other people, lay out your problems to other people. Now, of course, this is contextual. Go talk to your therapist, talk to your coach. But I'm talking about people that you have not brought into your circle to be the people to guide you. If you're sitting around dinner with your homies or your girlfriends and you're talking about your life, I can promise you 99 out of 100 times, those people are not solution oriented. They are not solution oriented. And so because they are not solution oriented, they're going to tell you every freaking reason under the sun why you cannot, should not, or won't be able to accomplish the thing that you want to accomplish. And that ultimately will become an evaluation of the kind of people that you're spending your time with. That's another conversation for another day. But if you don't ever justify and you don't ask permission, but instead you say, this is what I am doing, you will find out quickly, like with expediency, those around you who actually are there to support you and believe in your dreams and those other ones. In this place that we land in our lives about justification, that you have to understand, again, coming back to causation and correlation, we are taught from the youngest age to raise your hand, stay quiet, be in the back, don't be loud, don't show up, don't do this. You can't, like in middle school, we literally had a fucking fucking sign in our hallway in middle school that said, do not dream about being a basketball player. Go and be a doctor or a lawyer. What if I wanted to be a fucking basketball player? Like, people will, enough context, I'm freaking terrible at basketball, just so everyone knows. Even though I'm 6'4", I'm very good at it. But I don't want to be good at it, so I put zero effort in it. Let's be clear about that. So as you're going through this and you're thinking about, ever since you were young, everyone's always told you, you got to be permission to be you. No, you don't. And you are not a child anymore. You have to take this as exactly as I'm saying it to you. You are not a child anymore. You do not have to ask fucking permission to be yourself. And if you are operating through your truth, your values, your honesty, your heart, your life as you choose to create it, then you do not have to justify yourself anymore. Unbroken Nation, please, if you ever learn anything from me, understand this. Please understand this factor. Because as you step deeper into creating you, right, as you get into the first book, Think Unbroken, I talk at depth about this concept of create you. And that comes from the willingness that you have to set everyone else's opinions about who you should be to the side, to understand causation and correlation of the traumatic experiences of your life that have led you to this place in which you bend your identity. And instead of being you, you chameleon, right? I.e., I'm going to go back to the beginning here, full circle, Junko genes, in my opinion, my experience. And you have to recognize, to get to where you want to go, you have to understand how you got to where you are. And so as you start to cross this chasm into what is next, into your life, into creating who you are, you do not have to justify who you are to anyone, as long as you're operating in your truth. So, Unbroken Nation, thank you, my friends. Thank you for being here on this Tuesday night. I love Tuesday night coaching. I hope it brings a tremendous amount of value to you guys. I hope that you find a lot of truth in these conversations. I hope that it just evokes some thought process for you. Maybe things that you're in right now presently, or maybe even things that you haven't considered yet. Because I want you to be able to step further and deeper into this journey, knowing that there is so much that you can take and bring into your life starting right now. Like what we just talked about is here for you right now, in this moment. It's, you make decisions, you make choices today, and they're here. And what you have ahead of you is everything. It's all here for you, everything that you want in your life. But you've got to be willing to get super focused, get massive clarity, do the work, show up, and say to yourself, like, this is who I am. This is what I want to be. This is going to be my experience. And, you know, whether it is you come from this background and the world has told you you're not enough, fuck that. You don't have to justify. You're enough as you are, as long as you're willing to say I'm enough, right? That doesn't mean you're going to have everything that you want in your life yet, because guess what? You're probably not there or good enough yet. There are skills and talents that you must learn. There's healing that must be done. There's education to be had. But on a long enough timeline, the life that you want is here for you. You've got to be willing to fucking cross this threshold. You've got to be willing to step into it. Nobody's going to hand it to you guys. There is no Disney moment. Nobody's coming to save you. We talk about this all the time. But I am going to tell you that these tools are here. Tuesday night coaching, live coaching, Think Unbroken app, if you have the app store. If you go to thinkunbrokenpodcast.com, we'll put this out again. You can listen to this again, come back to it, be a part of this community on Discord, come and be a part of this thing. Like, this whole entire journey, this whole experience is about us coming together to create the life that we want to have. You can have it all. Like, I promise you can, but you've got to put in the work, you've got to put in the effort. You have to be a part of the community, right? This coaching for Tuesday night, like, we'll have people watch now. We'll have thousands and thousands of people listen to it on the podcast, which, again, thank you guys so much. And ultimately, it's not the books, it's not the coaching programs, it's not anything that will get you to where you want to go, other than you deciding on who it is that you are. Like, if I can give you the magic pill, that would be, go and take this, go and step forward in your life into what's next as who you choose to be, not as anyone else has decided. So Unbroken Nation, thank you so much, my friends. I appreciate you being here. It means the world to me. Please check out the Think Unbroken podcast on iTunes or Spotify. Leave a review if you have 30 seconds. It would mean the world. It helps so much for other people to be exposed to this information. Recently, we broke the top 40 shows, number 8 in Ireland, which is freaking amazing. I think we're number 38 in Canada, and that's because of you guys. It's because you're listening, because you're showing up, because you're a part of this in the Unbroken Nation. I love you guys so much. You are the reason why I continue to do this, right? People ask me all the time, they're like, why do you do this? It's got to be exhausting. The answer is it is. But my mission, okay, think about this. I told you guys, you have to have massive clarity about your mission, about your statement. My mission is to end generational trauma in our lifetime through education and information. And that means we got to show up. That means you do it. You come in, you follow through, you build your life. I didn't ask anybody's permission to do Tuesday night coaching. I didn't pick up the phone. I never called nobody. I didn't even ask my coach. I just said, I'm fucking doing this. And here we are a month later, Tuesday nights. This is what we do. So guys, do not justify. Go out, build your life, get massive clarity. And until next time, my friends, be unbroken. I'll see you.